Number 1. Based on the discussion, what is the difference between light-dependent and light-independent reactions? So based on the discussion, the difference between light-dependent and light-independent reactions are the light reactions, also known as light-dependent reactions, is a solar energy is converted into chemical energy, while the Calvin cycle, also known as light-independent reactions and dark reactions, use the chemical energy produced from chemical energy to build glucose precursor, the precursor to glucose and other molecules. Both of these occurs inside one of the organelles found in plant cell, which called chloroplast, and there are around 30 to 40 of them per cell. The steps of light reactions are a series of redox reactions or reductions and reductions reactions. So that occurs first in photosystem 2 and then photosystem 1. If the photosystem seems like they are named backward, it's because they were in order that they were discovered. In photosystem 2, electrons or red cycle flow beginning with a primary electrons acceptor through a series of compounds that are embedded in the thylakoid membrane. Short of like electrons transport change from circular respirations. The movement of electrons is represented by the red arrow. The Calvin cycle, or the light-independent, which is catabolic and anabolic, which means building of organic molecules from smaller components requiring energy to do so. Light-independent reactions is a series of biochemical reactions in photosynthesis not requiring organic molecules from carbon dioxide. The energy released from ATP produced during the light reactions drive this metabolic pathway. Light-independent are the first stage of photosynthesis. These utilize the energy stored in ATP and ADPH. They use carbon dioxide to systemize proteins. Number 2. How are photons observed and utilized in the first stage of photosynthesis? Photosynthesis in parts can be described in 4 stages, which occurs in specific parts of the chloroplast. In stage 1, light is absorbed by chlorophyll, a molecule's bond to reaction center, proteins in the thylakoid membrane. Chlorophyll is the only light-absorbing pigment in reaction centers. During the first stage of photosynthesis, the energy from sunlight is absorbed by the chloroplast. Water is used and oxygen is produced during this part of the process. This is where carbon dioxide is used to produce glucose, the second part of photosynthesis. When a part is exposed to light, photons of ultraviolet wavelength will shift to and be absorbed by the pigment proteins complex arrayed on the thylakoid membrane. When this happens, the energy of the protons is transferred into the pigment molecules, thus causing this pigment to go in the electronically extended state. Number 3. Summarize the process of light reaction and Calvin cycle. So, photosynthesis takes place in two stages, the light-independent reactions and the Calvin reaction cycle. Light-dependent reactions, which take place in the thylakoid membrane, use light energy to make ATP and NADPTH. The Calvin cycle, which takes place in the stomata, use energy driven from this compound to make Ga3P and carbon dioxide. The Calvin cycle is a process that plants and algae use to turn carbon dioxide from the air into sugar. The food autotrophs needs to grow. Energy to fuel chemical reactions in this sugar-generating process is provided by ATP and NADPH, chemical compounds which contain the energy plants have captured from sunlight. Calvin cycle. Reactions can be divided into three main stages: the carbon reduction, the reductions, and generations of the starting molecules. Light reaction is the first stages of photosynthesis process in which sugar energy is converted into chemical energy in the form of ATP and NADPH. The protein complex and the pigment molecules help in the production of NADPH and ATP. It is during the reactions that the energy from sunlight is absorbed by the pigment chlorophyll in the thylakoid membrane of the chloroplast. During these light reactions, water in use and oxygen is produced. These reactions can only occur during daylight and as the process needs sunlight to begin. Number 4. What are all the byproducts of light-dependent and light-independent reactions? The light-independent reaction releases oxygen as a byproduct as water is broken apart. In the Calvin cycle, which takes place in the stomata, the chemical energy driven from the light-independent reaction drives both the capture of carbon in carbon dioxide molecules and the subsequent assembly of sugar molecules. The product of light reaction are ATP, NADPH, and oxygens, of which oxygen is released into the atmosphere. NADPH acts are reducing agents, and ATP is assumed during the carbon dioxide fixations in dark reactions. The light-independent use ATP and NADPH form the light-dependent reactions to produce high-energy carbohydrates and oxygen. After the energy from the sun is converted and packaged into ATP and NADPH, the cell has the fuel needed to build carbohydrates molecules. The carbohydrates molecules will have a backbone of carbon atoms. Ga3P and oxygens are produced. In photosynthesis, water's carbon dioxide and ATP and NADPH are reactant. Are oxygens are